evolution of the Southern heart that we see on display. And we Southerners get so little credit for the progress we've made. The whole notion of judging a person on the content of their character, not the color of their skin, has happened. It's not going to happen. It's not around the corner. It's in the rearview mirror.
That's not in the rearview mirror. That's actually the view through your glasses as you wait at the bus stop for the white delegation to pick you up off waivers. Hi, my name is Reese Waters, and I'm troubled. I never even got around to dragging Tim Scott for ignoring the whole black jobs thing.
The president used a phrase I hadn't heard before. Maybe he's used it, maybe you've heard this, but he used a phrase saying that immigrants are coming into this country, undocumented immigrants, and they're taking black jobs and Hispanic jobs. What did he mean by that phrase, black jobs and Hispanic? What exactly does he mean? And does he mean low-wage jobs? And why not just say low-wage jobs? Why does he have to insert race and or ethnicity into it?
I got to tell you, the thing I thought was incredibly powerful on the issue of immigration was when President Trump said that we see our veterans homeless on the streets.
And we know exactly what he meant. He meant low-wage jobs. But of course, if he says the thing that we know he means, then he wouldn't have the room to continue to tap dance and shuffle as if he hasn't been anti-black for the last 5 decades. Also, here's a convenient list in case you wanted some examples of black jobs. There are a lot of exceptions in here. Now, when that video came out, I had enough. We had had the whole shuffle off between him and Byron Donalds. I said the black delegation has had enough. He has been on the trading block for years. It is far too long. Just go ahead and send him home. No, he has to be waived. He has to be waived by the black delegation if no other delegation is going to trade for him. Unfortunately, there's a 10-day waiting period for him to clear waivers. And in that time, he went and said this.
Chosen as the vice president, you would be the first black Republican VP on the ticket. How do you feel?
Well, I think it's exciting, no matter the outcome. It's the evolution of the Southern heart that we see on display. And we Southerners get so little credit for the progress we've made. The whole notion of judging a person on the content of their character, not the color of their skin, has happened. It's not going to happen. It's not around the corner. It's in the rearview mirror. We are living Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream.
Trump, just go ahead and pick your VP and put us out of our misery, man. I mean, really, this might be one of the worst things that you have put us through, is having to sit through Byron Donalds and Tim Scott continuing to try and out-tap dance one another. Like, pick your VP so I can go ahead and run these pieces, dragging both of them for shuffling for nothing.
It's the evolution of the Southern heart that we see on display. And we Southerners get so little credit for the progress we've made.
Credit to Southerners. Well, I do want to give credit to the state of Florida and Alabama and Mississippi and everybody else that has attacked critical race theory, or as I call it, history. Credit to them, and in your own state, in South Carolina, getting that gerrymandering decision from the Supreme Court, allowing them to pick and choose who they want in their jurisdiction, not based on race, but based on presumed political allegiance. And what would presumed political allegiance be based on, huh? Shoe size? Yeah, well, that's just the big picture, right? I wouldn't want to just cherry pick random stories and make it look like a racist epidemic. I mean, I'm not in the GOP.
The whole notion of judging a person on the content of their character, not the color of their skin, has happened. It's not going to happen. It's not around the corner. It's in the rearview mirror.
Now let's address what exactly is in the rearview mirror. There are the DEI programs that have been developed to try and create some equity in spaces that we've been excluded from. There was affirmative action, which sought to address that in corporations and colleges. Of course, there's the Voting Rights Act, ensuring that we had access to the ballot box. Of course, going back decades, as Brown versus Board of Education was struck down separate but equal. Wait, no. Those aren't in the rearview mirror. Those are all things that your party, the GOP, has sought to destroy. Yeah, that's not in the rearview mirror. That's actually the view through your glasses as you wait at the bus stop for the white delegation to pick you up off waivers.
We are living Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream.
Oh, they just love to quote MLK, don't they? Oh, they love to quote MLK. Really, it's like the GOP get out of jail free card. And yes, we are living MLK's dream, because I remember that time he said, I have a dream that one day a presidential candidate would get up on a debate and advocate for protecting black jobs. Tim Scott, you are not his dream. You are actually his reality, because they were anti-black Negroes then too. Yeah, that's how they got Malcolm and how they got Martin too. Now, as crazy as all this was, it wasn't even the first time that he tried this. Y'all remember The View?
One of the things I think about, and one of the reasons why I'm on the show, is because of the comments that were made, frankly, on this show, that the only way for a young African-American kid to be successful in this country is to be the exception and not the rule. That is a dangerous, offensive, disgusting message to send to our young people today, that the only way to succeed is by being the exception. The fact of the matter is we've had an African-American president, African-American vice president. We've had 2 African-Americans to be secretaries of the state. In my home city, the police chief is an African-American who's now running for mayor. The head of the highway patrol for South Carolina is an African-American.
Still exceptions.
In 1975, there was about 15% employment in the African-American community. For the first time in the history of the country, it's under 5%.
40% homelessness.
And 50% of the folks in our community
get 13% of the population.
You had the chance to ask the question. I know that I've watched you on the show, that you like people to be deferential and respectful, so I'm going to do the same thing.
That is true.
So here's what I'm going to suggest. I'm going to suggest the fact of the matter is that progress in America is palpable.
I'm going to need to stop us right there. I'm going to need to stop us. See, those are benchmarks, but if they were normalized, like if we were just flooded with black people in Congress, then they wouldn't even be notable. You wouldn't be able to point to 1 or 2 if they were anything else. 1 African-American president out of 44, which immediately leads to a rise in open racism, which organized itself under the notion to make America great again, and then takes the White House as soon as he's done. But they will gladly take credit for his accomplishments, which were blunted by a Congress that refused to work with him. And how are you the first black senator from the South since Reconstruction, and you're not the exception?
Progress in America is palpable. It can be measured in generations. I look back at the fact that my grandfather, born in 1921 in Sally, South Carolina, when he was on a sidewalk, a white person was coming, he had to step off and not make eye contact. That man believed then, with some doubt now, in the goodness of America, because he believed that having faith in God, faith in himself, and faith in what the future could hold for his kids would unleash opportunities in ways that you cannot imagine. Yesterday's exception is today's rule. And for us to
so
suggest—
America has met its promise.
No, of course, the concept of America is that we are going to become a more perfect union. But in fact, the challenges that we faced 50 years ago and 60 years ago should not be the same challenges that we face today.
I don't know what it is about black conservatives going on The View with this. I really don't, because actually Condoleezza Rice going on The View was actually the inspiration for my piece, the What's Wrong with Black Conservatives.
My parents never thought I was going to grow up in a world without prejudice, but they also told me that's somebody else's problem, not yours.
Now, this makes a whole lot of sense, because as a parent, I understand communicating to a child to lift any ceiling that she may perceive that she can do anything and it's somebody else's problem. But the reality is that it's all of our problem. Like, imagine if every black parent told their child that's somebody else's problem. Like, on an individual basis, you would feel empowered, but what you're also doing is abandoning the struggle for true equality and leaving it to the rest of us. That's a very I'm not black, I'm OJ way to view life. Look at our freedom fighters that we've had throughout history. Just pick anyone that comes to mind. Shirley Chisholm, Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, Medgar Evers, Fred Hampton, obviously MLK. Just think about their parents telling them that yes, society has not been fair to our kind, but that is somebody else's problem. And I will ask the same question that I asked in that piece. How do you think we got to this place? Like, how do you think we got to this place where your grandfather can feel some gratitude for you not having to live his reality? You think he just waited for things to get better over time because there's something in the water that somehow diminished white people's racism? Is that what you think happened?
As a nation, we seemingly get on the right track and then we go backwards. So you as a black man and as one of the, are there two black?
Yeah.
Senators?
Yeah.
Raphael Warnock.
Raphael, that's
three now.
The three, yes.
But you yourself have talked about when the police stopped you.
Absolutely.
So how can you get your party to stop trying to stop the progression that people are making?
Yeah, so
because that's what I complained about when I spoke about it. I want you to come out and say, listen, the Republicans have these issues. So
yeah, I think humans have these issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, the issue of discrimination that I have faced, I assume you face as well, is an issue of the heart. It's not Republicans or Democrats. Frankly, both sides of the aisle can do a better job on the issue of race. And frankly, my side of the aisle, I think, is doing a fabulous job of making progress. The question is, how do we measure that progress?
How is that?
Well, let me just give you a couple examples. So when you think about, this is good news, yeah. So.
Now, I will give him credit here. I gotta give credit where credit is due. The GOP is definitely making progress because they gave us the mugshot, right? They gave us the mugshot, which of course we love. They gave us some shiny shoes, those shiny gold bricks, those wearable gold bricks, which of course I can't control myself, when shoes are available. They keep trotting out the same black unemployment and HBCU numbers as if we can't read, because it really only takes one time to look that up to find out Biden's were better. I do appreciate that. Of course, they advocated for protecting black jobs, and they picked a guy with a race record which goes back to the 70s. Just pick a decade. Just pick a decade and look into that and the litany of problems which he has presented. So we do appreciate that. And let me not forget that you have provided a comfortable home for folks who seek specifically to destroy critical race theory and DEI. So yes, phenomenal.
So the truth of the matter is that when you look at progress in the Senate, especially from the Republican side, African-American chiefs of staff on the Republican side, the only African-American female chief of staff was mine. The current only Hispanic chief of staff, who happens to be female, is mine. When you look at the fact that when I helped to rewrite the tax code in 2017, I focused on my growing up experience, which was a single mother. I cut her taxes. Single mothers like mine, average income around $40,000 by 73%.
But you only one black senator out of 50.
So the truth is that when you measure success and progress in this nation, one of the things you have to do is look at the statistical realities. We brought African-American unemployment, when we cut the taxes, down to the lowest level in the history of this country. For the first time under 6%, it hit 5.4%.
Well, you also gave billionaires a huge tax cut, and that didn't trickle down to the working people.
Well, let's take a look at that.
If you want to talk about statistical realities, the statistical reality that we can't even argue with is that African Americans are what, 14, 15% of this country?
13%.
And they're 3% of the U.S. Senate. That is a statistical reality.
That is only one statistic.
Here are a few more statistical realities. How about higher rates of arrest and incarceration despite similar offending rates when you account for other factors? How about higher sentencing compared to white counterparts for similar offenses? or disproportionate use of force by law enforcement, leading to higher rates of injury and death. And then we have the disparities in access to quality education, resulting in lower graduation rates and academic achievement gaps. You have higher rates of disciplinary action and suspension compared to white students. And then, of course, there's the higher unemployment rates. Yes, even when they're low, they're always higher, and lower median household income compared to white Americans. There's discrimination in hiring practices and promotions, leading to occupational segregation and limited career advancement opportunities. But of course, let's go ahead and attack DEI. There are disparities in access to healthcare services and health outcomes, including higher rates of chronic diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, and asthma, as well as limited access to mental health services and higher rates of psychological distress. And that's not to mention the infant and maternal mortality rates in the Black community, higher rates of housing instability, including homelessness and eviction, discrimination in housing markets, including redlining practices that restricted access to mortgage loans and desirable neighborhoods. There's a huge wealth gap still between Black households and white households, stemming from historic discrimination and systemic barriers to wealth accumulation. And of course, you have the limited access to capital for entrepreneurship and business development. Even the environment, disproportionate exposure to environmental hazards and pollution in Black communities with limited access to clean water, air, and safe recreational spaces. Yeah, why don't you ask the folks in Flint all about that? No? No? Too far to go to Flint? How about you go down to Jackson, Mississippi? How about challenges in voter suppression efforts targeting Black communities, including restrictive voting laws and something you should know all about in South Carolina, Tim Scott? Gerrymandering, and of course the underrepresentation in elected offices and decision making. Yes, those are indeed some statistical realities, or as you would call it, Tim Scott, exceptions.